The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly before the UES Intrepid's observation deck. Captain James Walker stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of distant stars. The ship hummed quietly around him, a testament to human engineering and perseverance. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," said Communications Officer Lisa Reed, her voice cutting through the silence. "It's faint, but it appears to be an SOS signal from the Epsilon Eridani sector." Walker moved quickly to her station. "Show me." On the screen, a pulsing signal wavered. It didn't match any known human pattern, but its repeating nature suggested intelligence. Walker stroked his graying beard, a habit from his 20 years of space service. "How far?" "About 2 weeks at maximum thrust, sir," replied Navigator Tom Davis. Walker nodded. "Alert Admiral Hayes at command. We need to investigate this." Within hours, the response came. The UES Intrepid would lead a small fleet to investigate the signal. Whatever distress call was coming from deep space, humanity would answer. 3 days later, the Intrepid departed Earth orbit, accompanied by 2 support vessels. As they accelerated toward the outer reaches of the solar system, the crew prepared for the unknown. In the ship's mess hall, Davis explained the situation to the newer crew members. "We humans come from what the few alien species we've met call a death world," he said between bites of synthetic protein. "Earth has higher gravity than most habitable planets. Our atmosphere is thicker, our weather more extreme, our wildlife more dangerous." Young Ensign Maria Lopes looked puzzled. "But Earth seems so normal to us." "That's the point," Walker said, joining their table unexpectedly. "What's normal for us would kill many alien species. Our bones developed to support weight in high gravity. Our lungs can process thinner air than most. We can withstand temperature changes that would shock alien bodies." The captain took a seat, his eyes serious. "Whatever sent this signal might find us as strange as we find them. Be prepared." As the fleet pushed toward Epsilon Eridani, the signal grew stronger. Science Officer Ben Wilson spent days analyzing it. "It's definitely artificial," he reported on the 12th day of their journey. "The pattern suggests a mathematical intelligence. But there's something else. It's degrading. Whatever system is sending this is failing." Walker ordered increased speed. If someone needed help, every hour mattered. On day 14, the fleet arrived at the edge of the Epsilon Eridani system. What they saw shocked even the veteran crew members. A small planet, the third from its sun, showed signs of massive orbital installations, but many were damaged, some actively breaking apart. "Life signs?" Walker asked. "Yes," Wilson replied, his voice tight with excitement. "Definitely not human. Multiple different readings. One set matches nothing in our database." The Intrepid moved closer, sensors at maximum. They detected a colony on the planet's surface, buildings unlike any human architecture, with flowing curves and crystalline structures that caught the light of their star. "Captain," Reed called out, her voice urgent, "we're receiving a new transmission. It's a video signal." The main screen flickered, then stabilized. The bridge crew fell silent. The being on screen had pale blue skin that seemed to glow slightly. Its 4 eyes blinked independently, and its mouth was small and round. When it spoke, the sound was musical, like water flowing over stones. The ship's computer translated, "Anyone who hears this, we are the luminary of Epsilon Eridani II. Our colony is under attack. They came without warning, destroying our defenses. They take our people. Please, if anyone receives this message." The transmission cut out suddenly. In its place, the sensors showed new movement. Large ships, dark and angular, were approaching the far side of the planet. "Battle stations," Walker ordered, his voice calm but firm. "All hands prepare. We've come to answer a distress call, and that's exactly what we'll do." The lights on the Intrepid shifted to combat status as the human fleet moved toward the planet. Whatever threatened these aliens was about to learn that humans did not ignore calls for help, and that Deathworlders were not to be underestimated. The UES Intrepid led the small human fleet toward Epsilon Eridani II, engines blazing against the darkness. Captain Walker watched the tactical display as the unknown vessels circled the planet like hungry sharks. "Those ships are attacking the surface," reported Tactical Officer Greg Morgan. His fingers flew over the console, heavy weapons fire directed at the remaining settlements. Walker's jaw tightened. How many civilians down there? Sensors indicate approximately 5,000 life forms in the largest settlement. Science Officer Wilson said, "They appear to be hiding underground." And the attackers? Different biological signature entirely. Larger, denser bone structure. Wilson looked up from his station. "Sir, they're loading something, or someone, onto their ships." Walker had seen enough. "Lieutenant Morgan, target the nearest enemy vessel." Warning shot across their bow. "Let's announce ourselves." The Intrepid's main cannon fired, a brilliant beam of energy that cut through space just meters from the alien ship. The effect was immediate. The dark vessels stopped their assault and turned toward the human fleet. "They're scanning us," Reed said. "Heavy electromagnetic probes." "Let them look," Walker replied. "Open a channel." Reed worked her console. "Channel open, sir." Walker stood tall. "This is Captain James Walker of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We are responding to a distress call from this planet. Cease your hostile actions immediately." For long moments, there was no response. Then a harsh, clicking sound came through the speakers. The translation software struggled before producing words. "Depart this system, unknown vessels. This harvest is claimed by the Vorax Dominion." Walker's eyes narrowed. "There will be no harvest today. Stand down or face the consequences." The only reply was a sudden surge of energy as the Vorax ships launched their attack. Energy beams speared toward the human vessels. "Evasive maneuvers," Walker ordered. "Return fire. Target their weapon systems only." The human ships moved with surprising speed for their size, dodging the worst of the assault. The Intrepid shuddered as a glancing hit struck its shields. "Shields at 82%, Morgan reported calmly. "Their weapons are powerful, but slower than ours." The battle was brief but intense. The Vorax, clearly unprepared for serious resistance, soon withdrew their forces to a higher orbit. "They're retreating, not fleeing," Morgan noted. "Regrouping." Walker nodded. "That gives us time. Wilson, find me a safe landing zone near the largest settlement. We need to make contact with the survivors." An hour later, Walker led a small team to the surface in a shuttle. The planet's gravity was notably lighter than Earth's, making each step feel bouncy and uncertain. The landscape around them was beautiful, crystalline structures rising from purplish soil under a sky tinged with green. But many of the structures were now broken, shattered by the Vorax attack. "Movement ahead," said Security Chief Anna Barnes, raising her weapon. From behind a fallen crystal spire, several figures emerged slowly. They matched the being from the transmission, slender blue humanoids with 4 eyes. They moved gracefully in the low gravity, their bodies seemingly fragile. One stepped forward, wearing what appeared to be an environmental suit. Through a clear faceplate, Walker could see its features tightening in what might have been surprise. "You? Breathe our air." The translation came through Walker's earpiece. "Without protection." Walker nodded. "Our environmental analysis showed it compatible with human physiology. I'm Captain Walker of Earth." The alien bowed slightly. "I am Ambassador Tell of the Luminary. We did not expect. We sent our distress call hoping for aid from other Luminary colonies." The ambassador studied the humans with all 4 eyes. "Your biology must be remarkably robust. Earth is what some call a death world," Walker explained. "High gravity, wide temperature variations, aggressive life forms. It made us adaptable." Tell's eyes blinked rapidly. "The Vorax chose us because we are physically vulnerable. Our homeworld has gentle conditions. But you? The ambassadors seemed at a loss for words. We're here to help, Walker said simply. Tell us about these Vorax and what they want. Before Tell could answer, Barnes' voice cut in urgently. Captain, Vorax ships are descending again. Walker looked to the sky, where dark shapes were breaking through the clouds. Then it's time to show them what humans can do. Ambassador, get your people to safety. We'll handle this. As the luminary hurried away, Walker and his team readied their weapons. The Vorax were about to learn that attacking a species under human protection was a very serious mistake. Lieutenant Anna Barnes crouched behind a fallen crystal pillar, her breath steady despite the tension. The Vorax landing ships had touched down a kilometer away, disgorging troops that moved with predatory purpose. I count 20 hostiles approaching the settlement perimeter, she reported into her comm. They're big, Captain. At least 2 meters tall, heavily armored. Hold position. Walker's voice crackled back. Observation only. I need intel on their capabilities. Barnes signaled to her 3-person team to spread out. Earth's military had trained them for combat in varying gravity conditions, and they moved with practiced ease despite the planet's weaker pull. Through her scope, Barnes studied the Vorax. They walked on 2 powerful legs with an unusual forward lean. Their arms ended in clawed appendages, and their helmets featured multiple sensor arrays. Most carried what appeared to be energy weapons, but some wielded blade-like implements that hummed with power. Back at the Luminary settlement, Captain Walker met with Ambassador Tell in an underground chamber. The room was uncomfortably warm for the humans, but apparently ideal for the Luminary. The Vorax are resource harvesters, Tell explained, voice trembling slightly. They travel between star systems, taking what they need: minerals, technology, and genetic material. Wilson, the science officer, looked up from his scanner. They take prisoners. Yes. Tell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. They study species for useful traits. The strong become slave soldiers. The rest. The ambassador didn't finish. Walker frowned. How many colonies have they attacked? Many. They avoid well-defended worlds. The Luminary are peaceful. We never developed significant military technology. Tell gestured to the humans. We find your comfort in this environment astonishing. The air pressure alone would crush most Luminary without our protective suits. Wilson smiled. What's normal for us is extreme for you. Earth has almost twice this gravity. Our bodies evolved to withstand pressures, temperature variations, and toxins that would kill most species. Deathworlders, Tell whispered. We thought such beings were myths. Walker's comm unit buzzed. Captain. Barnes' voice was urgent. The Vorax are approaching a group of Luminary who couldn't reach the shelters. Request permission to engage. Walker looked at Tell, who trembled visibly. Permission granted, Lieutenant. Minimal force if possible. We need prisoners for intelligence. In the field, Barnes signaled her team forward. They moved silently, using the crystal formations as cover. The Vorax had surrounded 6 Luminary who cowered against a building wall. On my mark, Barnes whispered. 3, 2, 1. Engage. The humans struck from multiple angles. Their weapons fired specialized rounds designed to penetrate armor without killing. 2 Vorax fell immediately, stunned by the unexpected attack. A third swung toward Barnes, faster than something that size should move. It fired its weapon, a burst of energy that melted the crystal behind her as she rolled away. The reduced gravity allowed her to leap higher than normal, and she used this advantage to vault over the Vorax, firing down at its sensors. Private Rodriguez engaged another at close range, discovering that despite their size, the Vorax had surprising weak points at their joints. His combat knife, a simple steel blade, seemed to confuse the alien, whose armor was designed to repel energy weapons. The skirmish lasted less than 2 minutes. 4 Vorax lay unconscious, 1 retreated, and the last fought until Barnes had no choice but to use lethal force. Area secure, she reported, breathing heavily. The surviving luminary stared at the humans with all four eyes wide open in what might have been awe. You fought them directly, one luminary said through the translator. No one fights the Vorax directly. Barnes helped the aliens to their feet. We do. Back at the settlement, Walker received Barnes' report with grave interest. The Vorax were surprised by our attack, Barnes explained, standing at attention despite her fatigue. They're physically stronger than humans, but unused to opponents who can match their speed. Their armor has vulnerabilities at the joints, and they rely heavily on technological advantages. Walker nodded. Good work, Lieutenant. He turned to Tell. Ambassador, we need to prepare. The Vorax will return in greater numbers now that they know we're here. And we need to understand why they specifically targeted your colony. Tell's luminescent skin dimmed slightly. They came for something we discovered in the deep caves, something ancient and powerful. The ambassador's voice dropped. Something that might change the balance of power in this entire sector of space. Walker's eyes narrowed. The mission had just become significantly more complicated. The underground war room glowed with holographic displays, showing the luminary settlement and surrounding terrain. Captain Walker studied the tactical map, while his officers and luminary representatives gathered around. The Vorax fleet is growing, Navigator Davis reported. Our sensors detect 12 ships now in high orbit. They're larger than the ones we encountered initially. Walker nodded grimly. The situation was escalating quickly. What about this discovery the Vorax are after, Ambassador? Tell guided the hologram to display a deep underground chamber. 3 months ago, our miners uncovered this structure. It predates our colony by thousands of years. Inside, we found technology beyond our understanding. The hologram shifted to show a spherical object approximately 1 meter in diameter, covered in intricate patterns. We believe it's an energy source, Tell continued. When activated, it produced readings that defied our science. The energy signature was detected across the system. Science Officer Wilson leaned forward. That's what attracted the Vorax. Yes, they arrived 2 weeks later, demanding we surrender the artifact. Tell's skin pulsed with a dim light that the humans had learned indicated distress. When we refused, they attacked. Lieutenant Barnes, freshly returned from the field, joined the conversation. Based on our engagement, the Vorax have superior numbers and technology, but they lack tactical flexibility. They've grown accustomed to overwhelming weaker species. Walker paced around the hologram. Then we use that against them. They don't expect resistance, especially from a species like ours that they've never encountered. Sir, Barnes suggested, what if we move the artifact? Use it as bait to draw them into a trap. Walker's eyes lit up. Exactly what I was thinking, Lieutenant. He turned to Tell. With your permission, Ambassador, we'll relocate the artifact to the surface, somewhere defensible. Tell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. You wish to fight the Vorax directly. Even our most advanced luminary defense forces avoided direct confrontation. That's precisely why they'll never expect it, Walker explained. They believe that the logical response to a superior force is retreat or surrender. Humans develop different logic on our death world. The ambassador seemed confused. What logic is that? Lieutenant Morgan answered with a slight grin. Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense. As the meeting continued, they developed their strategy. The ancient artifact would be moved to a partially collapsed structure that offered natural protection on 3 sides. Human combat engineers quickly began modifying the area, using both Earth technology and salvaged luminary materials. We need to understand their attack patterns, Walker said. Lieutenant Barnes, take a small team to observe their landing party. Lieutenant Morgan, prepare our ships for orbital defense. The next few hours were a flurry of activity. Human soldiers worked alongside luminary civilians, the 2 species learning to compensate for their different biological capabilities. The luminary, though physically weaker, possessed remarkable technological understanding and could interface with systems that baffled even Wilson. Private Rodriguez discovered that the luminary could see energy patterns invisible to human eyes, making them valuable for detecting Vorax weapon signatures before they fired. "They keep saying we're strong," Rodriguez told Barnes as they prepared their position. "But strength isn't just physical. Their sensory abilities are incredible." Barnes nodded. "Different evolutionary paths. We developed muscles and endurance. They developed perception." By nightfall, the trap was set. The artifact had been placed in the reinforced structure, giving off a deliberate energy signature that the Vorax could detect. Around it, hidden in carefully constructed blinds, waited 20 human soldiers with modified weapons based on their earlier engagement. In orbit, the Intrepid and its companion ships maintained a defensive formation, appearing to protect the main luminary settlement, while actually preparing to flank the Vorax fleet when they committed to an attack. Captain Walker stood at the settlement perimeter, watching the darkening sky through high-powered binoculars. Beside him, Ambassador Tell seemed nervous. "Your people risk much for strangers," the ambassador observed. Walker lowered the binoculars. "That's another thing about evolving on a death world, Ambassador. When survival is difficult, cooperation becomes essential. Humans learned long ago that defending others ultimately means defending ourselves." A communication alert sounded. "Captain," Reed's voice came through. "Vorax ships are on the move. They're taking the bait." Walker nodded. "All units prepare. Remember your training." He looked at the luminary ambassador. "It's time to show the Vorax what happens when they threaten a species under human protection." Across the battlefield, humans readied themselves for combat, their bodies, forged in Earth's harsh conditions, prepared to fight in defense of a gentler species from a more forgiving world. The night sky erupted with light as the first Vorax landing ships broke through the atmosphere. Their engines glowed an angry red against the darkness, illuminating the crystalline landscape below. Captain Walker watched from his hidden command post as 3 Vorax vessels descended toward the trap. His pulse remained steady. A lifetime of military service had taught him to control his fear. "All teams report ready." Barnes' voice came through his comm unit. "Ambush positions secured. Hold until they're fully committed," Walker ordered. He turned to the luminary technicians beside him. "Energy dampening fields." "Active, Captain," replied the lead technician, his blue skin reflecting the tactical displays. "The Vorax scanners will detect only the artifact, not your soldiers." The landing ships touched down with surprising grace for their bulk. Massive doors slid open, and Vorax troops emerged, 30 from each vessel. They were even larger than the previous landing party, and their armor gleamed with additional weaponry. Through his binoculars, Walker observed their formation. The Vorax moved with military precision, but displayed overconfidence, advancing directly toward the structure housing the artifact without securing their perimeter. "They really don't expect resistance," Walker murmured. He keyed his comm. "All units, prepare to engage on my mark." The Vorax commander, distinguishable by elaborate markings on its armor, approached the structure first. It raised some kind of scanning device toward the entrance. Walker pressed his comm button. "Now." Across the battlefield, hidden panels in the crystal formation slid open, revealing human soldiers in combat exoskeletons. Their weapons fired in perfect synchronization, targeting the Vorax's joint vulnerabilities identified in earlier encounters. The Vorax reacted with surprise, their formation breaking as they sought cover. Their commander bellowed orders in their clicking language, trying to organize a defense. Private Rodriguez led a squad that attacked from behind, using the lower gravity to make incredible leaps over Vorax positions. His team deployed specialized flash grenades designed to overload the Vorax sensory arrays. Their helmet sensors are vulnerable to ultraviolet pulses. Rodriguez shouted into his comm, "Hit them with the UV spectrum." Barnes immediately redirected her team's targeting. "All units, switch to UV disruption. Focus on their helmets." The effect was dramatic. Vorax soldiers staggered, their movements becoming uncoordinated as their visual systems failed. The humans pressed their advantage, moving in with practiced efficiency. In orbit, the battle took a different turn. The Vorax fleet, realizing their ground forces were under attack, moved to provide orbital support. They fell directly into Morgan's trap. The Intrepid and its companion ships, hidden behind Epsilon Eridani I's small moon, emerged at full thrust. They struck the exposed flank of the Vorax fleet, targeting propulsion systems rather than weapons. "We don't need to destroy them," Morgan had explained during planning. "Just keep them from escaping." On the surface, the Vorax commander rallied its troops, demonstrating why the species had become successful predators. It activated a personal shield and charged directly at Walker's position, apparently identifying him as the human leader. Walker stood his ground. As the commander approached, Walker drew a simple combat knife, a tool humans had used since prehistoric times. The Vorax hesitated, clearly confused by this primitive weapon. That moment of uncertainty was enough. Walker threw the knife with deadly accuracy, finding the narrow gap between the commander's helmet and chest plate, a technique Barnes had identified during their first encounter. The commander fell, dark fluid seeping from its wound. The remaining Vorax troops, seeing their leader defeated, began a disorganized retreat. Ambassador Tell watched the battle from the safety of the command bunker, all four eyes wide with astonishment. "Your species fights like nothing we have ever witnessed," Tell said to Wilson, who maintained communications. "You are smaller than the Vorax, yet you engage them directly. You use their strength against them." Wilson smiled grimly. "On Earth, we evolved alongside predators that were stronger and faster. We learned to survive by outsmarting them." Outside, the battle reached its conclusion. The Vorax, faced with unexpected resistance both on the ground and in orbit, began signaling for retreat. Their remaining ground forces abandoned their equipment and fled toward the landing ships. Walker allowed them to escape. A cornered enemy fights hardest, and he wanted the Vorax to carry tales of human combat prowess back to their fleet. As dawn broke over the battlefield, humans helped wounded Luminary and secured Vorax technology for study. The first real test of humanity against an aggressive alien species had ended in victory. But Walker knew this was just the beginning. The command center aboard the UES Intrepid hummed with activity as Captain Walker studied the tactical display. The retreating Vorax ships formed a defensive cluster around their massive carrier vessel, a floating fortress that dwarfed the human ships. "They're not leaving the system," Morgan observed. "Just regrouping." Walker nodded. "They still want the artifact. And now they want revenge." He turned to face his assembled officers. "We can't let them return with reinforcements. We need to take the fight to them." Ambassador Tell, present via holographic projection from the surface, looked alarmed. "Captain, the Vorax carrier has never been defeated in battle. Many species have tried." "Many species aren't humans," Walker replied simply. He pointed to the display. "Lieutenant Barnes, I want a boarding team ready in 30 minutes. We're going to infiltrate that carrier." Barnes saluted. "Yes, sir." The plan came together quickly. While the Intrepid engaged the Vorax fleet in a frontal assault, a small shuttle would approach from beneath, using the battle as cover to reach the carrier's maintenance bay. 2 hours later, Lieutenant Barnes led her team of 8 soldiers through the dark corridors of the Vorax carrier. The ship's interior was hot and humid, with gravity significantly stronger than Earth's. Conditions that would exhaust most species, but merely challenged the humans. "The Vorax designed this environment to weaken potential invaders," whispered Rodriguez as they moved carefully forward. "They'd never expected visitors from a high-gravity world." Barnes checked her scanner. "Life signs ahead. Lots of them, but they're not moving like Vorax." They reached a massive chamber with transparent cells lining the walls. Inside each cell were aliens of different species, some Barnes recognized from Galactic Council records, others completely unknown. All looked weak, and many showed signs of experimentation. "Prisoners," Barnes whispered. "No, test subjects." Rodriguez examined the nearest cell. Inside, a frail being with delicate features pressed its hand against the barrier, eyes wide with hope or fear. "We need to free them," Rodriguez said, his voice tight with anger. Barnes nodded. "Security console there. Cover me." While her team provided protection, Barnes hacked into the Vorax system using translation algorithms developed by Wilson. The cells began opening one by one. Aboard the Intrepid, Walker directed the battle against the Vorax fleet. Their ships were powerful but predictable, relying on overwhelming force rather than tactical flexibility. "Their shields are concentrated forward," Walker noted. "Engineering, can we modify our torpedoes to curve around their defenses?" "Already on it, Captain," came the reply from Chief Engineer Martin. "Reprogramming guidance systems now." The modified torpedoes proved devastatingly effective, bypassing the Vorax shields to strike vulnerable engine sections. 2 enemy vessels lost power and drifted out of formation. On the carrier, Barnes' team reached the central laboratory. What they found stopped them cold. Dozens of transparent tanks contained partial specimens, limbs, organs, and other biological components from various species. "They're harvesting genetic material," Barnes realized, "creating biological weapons or enhancing their own capabilities." Rodriguez pointed to a sealed door. "Captain, sensors indicate that's their command center. Orders." Barnes faced a critical decision. Their mission was to disable the carrier's weapons and engines, not confront the Vorax leadership directly. But seeing the horror of the laboratories changed things. "We're taking control of this ship," she decided. "Prepare breach charges." The door exploded inward. Barnes' team stormed the command center, surprising the Vorax officers inside. The aliens fought fiercely, but in the confined space, their size became a disadvantage against the smaller, more agile humans. The battle was brief but intense. When it ended, Barnes stood over the Vorax fleet commander, a massive specimen with elaborate armor and cybernetic enhancements. "Surrender your forces," Barnes demanded. The Vorax commander's translator produced a harsh laugh. "Deathworlders, we suspected your kind existed. You fight well, but you are too few. The Dominion will send hundreds of ships." Barnes placed her weapon against the commander's head. "Not if we send a different message first." Using the carrier's communication system, Barnes broadcast images of the freed prisoners and captured laboratories to the remaining Vorax ships. She included a simple message: "Retreat or share your commander's fate." On the Intrepid, Walker watched with satisfaction as the Vorax fleet broke formation and accelerated away from the planet. "They're running," Morgan said, surprised. "They're predators," Walker replied. "Predators don't fight when the prey proves too dangerous." As Barnes and her team returned with the liberated prisoners and valuable intelligence, Walker felt both pride and concern. Humanity had won this battle, but the war against the Vorax had only just begun. For the first time, the galaxy had witnessed what humans from Earth, true Deathworlders, were capable of when protecting others. The Great Hall of the Luminary Settlement sparkled with crystal formations that caught and amplified the light. Captain Walker stood before a gathering unlike any in human history. Representatives from 7 different alien species, all rescued from the Vorax carrier. 2 weeks had passed since the battle. The Vorax fleet had retreated beyond the system's edge, and long-range sensors showed no sign of their return. "The debt we owe humanity cannot be measured," Ambassador Tell addressed the assembly. The translator rendered the musical luminary language into human speech. "When we sent our distress call into the void, we had little hope. Instead, we found protectors from a world so different from our own that we once believed such beings could not exist." Walker felt slightly uncomfortable with the praise. He stepped forward. "We did what any humans would do," he said simply. "On Earth, we learned long ago that strength means little if not used to defend those who need protection." A tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, introduced as Elder Nor of the Vasi people, approached Walker. "You call your world a death world," the elder said, voice like wind through leaves. "Yet you bring life. The Vorax have harvested the outer systems for generations. No species has successfully opposed them until now. Science Officer Wilson had been analyzing data recovered from the Vorax carrier. He joined the conversation. The Vorax records show they deliberately target what they call garden worlds, planets with gentle conditions that produce physically vulnerable species, Wilson explained. They avoid worlds like Earth because the inhabitants might pose a threat. Ambassador Tell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Then it is fortunate they discovered us before Earth. Had they encountered your world first, they might have brought their full armada. Walker nodded. The thought had occurred to him too. Earth had been lucky. Its first contact had been with peaceful species like the Luminary, rather than predators like the Vorax. Lieutenant Barnes approached, bringing the recovered artifact that had started everything. Its surface glowed with subtle patterns that shifted as she moved. Our scientists have been studying this, Barnes said. It appears to be a communication device of incredible range, possibly left by an ancient civilization. When the Luminary activated it, it didn't just alert the Vorax. It sent signals across the galaxy. Walker understood the implications immediately, which means others might be coming. Not all will be enemies, Elder Noor assured him. Many peaceful alliances exist among the garden worlds. We share technology and culture, but lack the physical capability to defend ourselves. The Galactic Council has long debated how to address threats like the Vorax. Ambassador Tell stepped closer. Captain Walker, I have been authorized to invite Earth to join the Galactic Council, with the Luminary as your sponsors. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Walker remained silent for a moment, aware of the historical importance of this invitation. I will convey your offer to Earth's leadership, he finally replied, but I believe they will accept. The ceremony continued with each rescued species offering thanks in their own way. The Vasi presented crystalline memory orbs containing their history and art. The insectoid Krell pledged engineering expertise. The aquatic mirror offered access to rare compounds found only in their oceanic world. As the gathering concluded, Walker found himself standing with Barnes and Rodriguez near the settlement's observation dome. The stars shone brightly above them. Something on your mind, Captain? Barnes asked. Walker nodded. We came here answering a simple distress call. Now we're about to introduce Earth to a galaxy of species who see us as protectors. Rodriguez smiled. Isn't that a good thing, sir? It's a responsibility, Walker replied. Most of these species evolved without the environmental pressures that shaped humans. They never needed to develop weapons or combat tactics. Barnes understood, and they see our strength as a shield. Yes. The question is, are we ready for that role? As if in answer, a communication alert sounded. It was Admiral Hayes from Earth Command. Captain Walker, the Admiral's voice came through clearly. Your reports have caused quite a stir back home. The Security Council has unanimously voted to establish a permanent human presence in the Epsilon Eridani system. You're looking at the commander of Earth's first extraterrestrial defense base. Walker accepted the promotion with mixed emotions. As the call ended, he looked out at the stars again. So it begins, he said quietly. Across the settlement, the rescue aliens mingled with human crew members, each learning from the other. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or traitors, but as defenders. The Deathworlders had become guardians of life. Far beyond the system's edge, the damaged Vorax fleet limped toward their home territory. Their commander prepared a message for the Dominion leadership. Beware the Deathworlders. They are coming. The quiet hum of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station 7 was broken by a sudden, urgent beeping. Technician Peter Wright jolted upright in his chair, nearly spilling his coffee. His eyes widened as he stared at the screen. Sir, you need to see this, he called to his supervisor. The signal was unlike anything they had seen before. It pulsed with strange patterns, clearly artificial, but not matching any known human transmission method. Within minutes, the station was buzzing with activity as analysts and cryptographers worked to decode the mysterious message. 3 hours later, Commander Thomas Reed was awakened by the harsh ring of his secure phone. He reached for it in the darkness of his bedroom, his military training bringing him to full alertness despite the early hour. "Reed here," he answered, voice clear and firm. "Commander, this is General Harris. We need you at Command Central immediately." "We've received." "Well, it's easier if you see it yourself." Reed arrived at the United Earth Defense Force headquarters 30 minutes later. The normally quiet building was alive with activity, officers and analysts moving with purpose through the corridors. "What do we have?" Reed asked as he entered the main command center. General Harris gestured to the large screen on the wall. "A message, Commander. From space. And not from any of our ships or stations." Reed's eyebrows rose. "First contact." "Not exactly. It seems they've known about us for some time. We're the ones playing catch-up." The team of linguists and code breakers had been working non-stop. They had managed to translate the core of the message, which now displayed on the screen. Asterisk to the warriors of Earth, we, the Lumar Confederation, send this urgent plea for help. Our worlds fall one by one to the Vorn Empire. They enslave our people and strip our planets. We have heard tales of your kind. The Deathworlders, those who evolved on a harsh planet and grew strong. We need that strength now. Help us, people of Earth. You may be our last hope. Asterisk. The room fell silent as Reed read the message. The implications were staggering. Not only was Earth not alone in the universe, but other species knew about humans and had labeled them Deathworlders. "How legitimate is this?" Reed asked, military caution taking over. "The signal came from approximately 40 light-years away," replied Dr. Laura Green, the head of xenobiology. "It contains detailed star charts confirming the location of several Lumar worlds and the advances of these Vorn forces. The message repeats in several mathematical sequences that suggest a highly advanced civilization." Reed studied the additional data now scrolling across screens around the room. Star maps, alien ship designs, and what appeared to be battle reports. "We need to convene the military council," General Harris said. "This goes beyond any first contact protocol we've established." 6 hours later, Reed stood before the 12 members of Earth's military council, presenting what they knew about the alien distress call. "These Lumars are a peaceful species according to their message. They've been watching us from afar, possibly for decades. They wouldn't ask for our help unless they were truly desperate." Admiral Jones, a veteran of Earth's early space conflicts, leaned forward. "Why should we risk human lives for an alien species we know nothing about? This could be a trap." Reed displayed the images sent by the Lumars. Worlds burning, structures collapsing, ships fleeing. "If these are real, and I believe they are, then we're witnessing genocide. Even if we wanted to help," another council member argued, "our ships aren't designed for interstellar warfare. We've barely established our Mars colony." Reed took a deep breath. "The Lumars have included jump point coordinates. They say they can guide our ships through faster-than-light travel corridors we haven't discovered yet." The debate raged for hours until Reed finally slammed his hand on the table. "We can debate the politics later," he said firmly. "But right now, there are people, yes, alien people, but thinking, feeling beings, who need our help. If we turn our backs on them, what does that say about humanity?" The council chamber fell silent. Finally, the council chairwoman spoke. "Commander Reed, prepare the 7th Fleet for deployment. You leave in 72 hours. The announcement spread through Earth's military bases like wildfire. The 7th Fleet, humanity's most advanced battle group, was being deployed to help an alien civilization. For most soldiers, it seemed like something out of a dream, or perhaps a nightmare. Commander Reed, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood in the massive hangar of the lunar military base, watching as engineers and technicians swarmed over the ships of the 7th Fleet. The flagship, the UES Defender, towered over the other vessels, a monument to human ingenuity and determination. Admiral Reed. A voice called from behind him. The command team is assembled in briefing room 3. Reed nodded and followed the young officer through the bustling corridors. When he entered the briefing room, 3 people stood at attention. At ease, Reed said, studying his new senior officers. You've all read the mission briefing. We're heading into unknown territory to face an enemy we've never encountered before. I need the best, and that's why you're here. Captain James Morgan, a man with sharp eyes and a reputation as a tactical genius, spoke first. Sir, with all due respect, we have no idea what we're up against. The Vorn could have technology centuries beyond ours. That's why we have Engineer Wilson, Reed replied, nodding to the woman with short red hair and focused eyes. Anna Wilson designed half the weapons systems on our ships and has been studying the Lumar data nonstop. Wilson stepped forward. The Vorn have powerful energy weapons, but based on the Lumar reports, their ships are less maneuverable than ours. They rely on brute force rather than tactical flexibility. The third officer, Navigator Mark Davis, a former fighter pilot with an uncanny spatial awareness, pointed to the star map displayed on the wall. The jump points the Lumars provided will get us there in 3 weeks instead of decades. But once we arrive, we'll be on our own. No reinforcements, no supply lines. Reed looked at each of them. I won't lie to you. This mission is dangerous. But humanity can't hide on Earth forever. Sooner or later, the Vorn would find us. Better to meet them on our terms. Over the next 3 days, the fleet was transformed. Engineers worked around the clock, adapting human weapons based on the Lumar data. Soldiers trained with new equipment designed for alien environments. Medical teams prepared for unknown diseases and injuries. Meanwhile, in a secure communication room, Reed met with the Lumar representatives for the first time. Their images projected as blue-tinted holograms. The aliens had elongated bodies with 4 arms and large expressive eyes. Their voices, translated through computers, sounded musical. Your swift response surprises us, Admiral Reed, said the Lumar diplomat who called himself River. We did not expect humans to move so quickly toward war. Reed studied the alien's face. We're not moving toward war, River. We're moving toward helping your people. There's a difference. Our scientists estimated it would take your species at least 1 full orbital cycle, what you call a year, to prepare such a response. Another Lumar named Sky added. Wilson, who had joined the meeting, smiled slightly. Then your scientists underestimated human determination. When we set our minds to something, we move fast. The Lumars seemed unsettled by this information. They exchanged glances before River spoke again. We were right to call on the Deathworlders. Your species evolved in hardship, and it shows in your speed and resolve. On the final day before launch, Reed stood on the observation deck, watching Earth grow smaller as the lunar base rotated. He felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, not just for the fleet and its crew, but for humanity's first major step into the galactic community. Admiral, Davis said, joining him at the window. The fleet is ready. All ships report green status. Reed nodded. Send the order. We launch in 1 hour. As the crew boarded their ships, a mixture of excitement and fear hung in the air. News cameras captured the moment as the massive engines of the 7th Fleet roared to life, illuminating the lunar surface with brilliant blue light. Reed took his place on the Defender's Bridge, settling into the command chair. All ships report ready, Admiral, Morgan announced from his tactical station. Reed took a deep breath. Navigator Davis, take us out. Set course for the first jump point. The fleet lifted off from the lunar surface, 7 massive warships and their support vessels accelerating into the darkness of space. Behind them, Earth watched and waited, hoping their warriors would return. 3 weeks of travel through the mysterious jump points had changed the crew of the 7th Fleet. The strange bending of space and time during jumps left many with headaches and strange dreams. But as they emerged from the final jump point into Lumar space, all discomfort was forgotten. All stop. Admiral Reed ordered as the fleet entered an asteroid field at the edge of Lunar territory. Passive sensors only. Let's see what we're dealing with before we announce ourselves. The bridge of the UES Defender fell silent as the crew took in their first view of truly alien space. A distant red sun cast an eerie glow over the asteroids. Somewhere beyond this field lay the Lumar homeworld and the Vorn invasion fleet. Contact. Morgan's voice cut through the silence. Bearing 047, moving slowly through the asteroid field. Reed moved to the tactical display. Can we get a visual? The main screen flickered to life, showing a sleek ship with odd angles and pulsing red lights. It was roughly twice the size of an Earth corvette. Vorn patrol ship, Reed said quietly. First alien vessel ever seen by human eyes. Wilson joined them at the display, her eyes analyzing every detail of the alien craft. Their hull appears to be made of a crystalline material, different from our metal alloys. And those red pulses, I believe they're scanning the area. Can they detect us? Reed asked. Wilson shook her head. Not if we stay powered down. The asteroid should mask our heat signature. For the next 6 hours, they observed the Vorn ship, recording its movements and scanning patterns. Wilson worked with her engineering team to analyze the data, while Morgan and his tactical officers studied the ship's patrol route. I think we should engage it, Morgan said during the command meeting in Reed's ready room. Test our capabilities against a single ship before we face their main fleet. Davis frowned. It's a risk. If they get a message out. They won't. Wilson interrupted, displaying a schematic on the room's screen. I've identified what I believe is their communication array. A targeted EMP burst should disable it before they know we're here. Reed studied the plan. This would be humanity's first battle with an alien species, history in the making, and a terrible responsibility. Prepare the Intrepid and the Valiant for close engagement, Reed decided. The Defender will hang back as support. If things go wrong, we retreat immediately. As the two smaller warships moved silently through the asteroid field, Reed watched from the Defender's bridge. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair tightly. EMP ready, Wilson reported from her station. Weapons locked, Morgan added from his position on the Intrepid. Reed took a deep breath. Execute. A pulse of invisible energy shot from the Intrepid, hitting the Vorn ship precisely at its communication array. The red lights flickered and died. Direct hit, Wilson exclaimed. Communications disabled. Before the Vorn could react, both human ships accelerated from their hiding places. The Vorn ship immediately fired, powerful red beams slicing through space where the Intrepid had been a second before. They're fast, Morgan's voice came over the comm. But their targeting systems are predictive rather than reactive. They're shooting where they think we'll be. Reed watched as the human ships danced around the larger Vorn vessel. The Earth ships were more agile, changing direction in ways the Vorn craft couldn't match. However, whenever a Vorn beam connected, it caused serious damage. Their weapons are more powerful than ours, Wilson noted grimly as the Valiant's shields flared under enemy fire. Morgan's voice was tight but controlled, implementing tactical pattern Delta. The two human ships began moving in perfect coordination, one drawing the Vorn's fire while the other attacked from a blind spot. It was a tactic developed for fighting Earth's pirates, never tested against alien technology. But it worked. The Vorn ship couldn't track both targets effectively. Within minutes, the human ships had disabled the Vorn's engines and weapons. We've neutralized the threat, Morgan reported. Permission to board and capture. Reed nodded. Granted. But be careful. We need information more than we need prisoners. Hours later, a single Vorn stood in the Defender's secure holding cell. The alien was tall and thin with gray skin that seemed to shimmer like polished stone. Its 4 eyes blinked independently as it assessed Reed. Your kind fights well, the Vorn said through the translation device. For soft worlders. We're not soft, Reed replied. We come from Earth. The alien's eyes widened slightly. The Deathworld. Impossible. Such creatures would be too primitive for space travel. Reed smiled grimly. You might want to reconsider that assessment. The Seventh Fleet emerged from behind the larger moon of the Lumar homeworld, all ships in tight formation. The scene before them was one of both beauty and devastation. The planet gleamed blue-green beneath them, with sprawling cities visible even from orbit. But smoke rose from several population centers, and the wreckage of ships formed a ring of debris around the planet. Vorn ships detected, Morgan reported. 7 large vessels in high orbit. Dozens of smaller craft moving between the surface and the fleet. Reed studied the tactical display. They're busy, shuttling resources and prisoners up from the surface, most likely. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced, from the planet's surface. The main screen flickered, revealing the face of a Lumar. Unlike the holograms they had seen before, this Lumar looked tired, with dull eyes and shallow breathing. Earth vessels, I am Ambassador Gray of the Lumar Confederation. Thank the stars you've arrived. The Vorn have taken our capital city and 3 major population centers. They're stripping our resources and loading our people onto transport ships. Reed stepped forward. Ambassador, this is Admiral Reed of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call and have come to help. What's your situation? The ambassador's large eyes blinked slowly. We're holding them back from the southern continent, but we can't last much longer. Their ground forces are too strong, and our people, we're not built for war. As Gray spoke, Reed noticed the ambassador's hands trembling, not from fear, but from what looked like physical exhaustion from standing in Earth normal gravity. We've secured a Vorn patrol ship and captured one of their crew, Reed said. We're gathering intelligence before we engage. Gray's expression showed surprise. You've already captured a Vorn ship. Remarkable. Our forces haven't managed to take a single Vorn vessel intact during the entire conflict. We'll send a shuttle down to your position, Reed decided. I want to see the situation firsthand. Hours later, Reed, Morgan, and Davis found themselves in a Lumar command center built inside a mountain. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, but the air was similar enough to breathe without assistance. All around them, Lumars moved with graceful, flowing motions that seemed almost like dancing. Ambassador Gray led them through the facility. Up close, the Lumars were even more striking. Tall and slender with luminescent skin that shifted colors subtly with their emotions. Their 4 arms moved independently, often handling multiple tasks at once. Your world is beautiful, Reed said, looking at images of Lumar cities before the invasion. The architecture featured sweeping curves and towers that seemed impossibly thin. Yes, Gray agreed. We have been fortunate. Our planet has few natural disasters, mild weather patterns, and limited predatory evolution. We developed technology before we developed weapons. Davis raised an eyebrow. No predators. No natural disasters. How did your species learn to handle threats? Gray seemed confused by the question. We avoided threats. We solved problems through cooperation and communication. And when communication failed, Morgan asked. We compromised, Gray said, the concept of doing otherwise clearly foreign to him. Reed began to understand. Your species evolved in a gentle environment. You never had to fight to survive. Gray's skin flushed a pale blue. Not like your kind. We've studied Earth from afar. Your hurricanes, earthquakes, predators, diseases, your entire history of conflict. We couldn't imagine evolving in such conditions. That's why you called us, Reed realized. You needed someone who understands fighting. Yes, Gray admitted. The Vorn see our peaceful nature as weakness. They evolved on a world with constant tectonic activity and atmospheric storms. They believe only the strong deserve to survive. Morgan examined the tactical displays showing Vorn positions. What's their objective? Why invade your world? Gray's color darkened. They want our jump point technology. And he hesitated. They want to use us. Use you? Reed asked. As bait, Gray explained. They've intercepted signals from many worlds. They fear other powerful species might threaten them. They're using our distress calls to identify potential threats and eliminate them before they become problems." Reed's expression hardened. "So they were expecting us?" "Yes," Gray confirmed, "but they weren't expecting Deathworlders." Dawn broke over the Lumar capital, now half occupied by Vorn forces. The city's elegant spires were damaged but still standing, a testament to the Lumar's architectural skill. From a hidden observation post, Reed watched as Vorn shuttles moved between the ground and their ships in orbit. "The plan is set," he told Morgan and Davis. "Engineer Wilson has modified our ship's shields to better withstand their energy weapons. Our ground forces are in position." Morgan checked his weapon, a standard Earth pulse rifle now modified with technology derived from studying the captured Vorn equipment. "The Lumars are still hesitant about direct combat. They'll provide support, but they're not fighters." "They don't need to be," Reed replied. "That's why we're here." Above them, hidden by the planet's smallest moon, the human fleet prepared for battle. Wilson's voice came through Reed's communicator. "Admiral, modifications are complete. All ships report ready." Reed nodded, though she couldn't see him. "Begin Operation Thunderstrike." In orbit, the 7 ships of the human fleet emerged from hiding, engines flaring as they accelerated toward the Vorn vessels. The element of surprise gave them the first advantage. 2 Vorn ships were disabled before they could raise their shields. "Direct hits," Wilson reported from the Defender's bridge. "Their shield generators are vulnerable when inactive, just as we predicted." The remaining Vorn ships responded quickly, their powerful weapons lancing out across space. But the human vessels moved in unpredictable patterns, using the debris field for cover. On the surface, Reed gave the signal. Human dropships descended from the cloud cover, landing behind Vorn lines. Earth Marines in powered armor moved quickly through the streets of the Lumar capital, their training evident in their coordinated movements. Reed led a team toward the Vorn Command Center, a pyramid-like structure the aliens had built in what was once the Lumar Central Park. Around them, the sounds of battle grew, the high-pitched whine of Vorn energy weapons answered by the sharp crack of human firearms. "They're falling back," Morgan reported as his team secured another intersection. "They're not used to fighting in urban environments. They prefer open battlefield tactics." The Lumars who had joined them watched in awe as the humans moved from cover to cover, using the city's architecture to their advantage. It was as if the humans had been born knowing how to fight in any environment. In orbit, the battle raged. 2 human ships had taken heavy damage, but Wilson's modifications allowed them to withstand hits that would have destroyed them otherwise. The Vorn fleet commander, realizing they were outmatched in maneuverability, ordered his ships to form a defensive perimeter. "They're protecting their flagship," Wilson noted. "All their command operations must be centralized there." On the ground, Reed's team reached the entrance to the Vorn Command Center. The alien guards were twice the size of those they had encountered before, clearly elite warriors. As the humans engaged them, Reed noticed something surprising. "They're getting tired," he told Morgan. "Look at their breathing patterns." Morgan nodded. "Lumar gravity is lower than Earth's. We're more efficient here than they are." A massive explosion rocked the building as Davis's team breached the eastern entrance. Caught between 2 forces, the Vorn guards retreated deeper into the building. As Reed's team pushed forward, they entered a large chamber where a single Vorn stood waiting. Unlike the others, this one wore ornate armor and carried an energy staff. "I am Commander Drak of the Vorn Empire," the alien announced through a translation device. "You fight well for primitives." Reed stepped forward. "This ends now. Withdraw your forces from Lumar space." The Vorn commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Withdraw. The Vorn do not retreat, but I will offer you the honor of combat. One warrior against another, as is our tradition." Reed considered the offer. The Vorn was larger and likely stronger, but Reed had noticed how the aliens moved in Lumar's gravity. "I accept," Reed said, "but we fight under Lumar conditions with one change. We increased the gravity to Earth normal. Drax's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Agreed. When you fall, your forces will surrender. Ambassador Gray, who had been monitoring the communication, sent an urgent message to Reed's earpiece. Admiral, this is madness. The Vorn evolved in higher gravity than even Earth. But Reed smiled slightly as environmental controls hummed to life, increasing the gravity in the chamber. Yes, but they didn't evolve with Earth's other challenges. As the gravity increased, both Reed and Drax felt the change. But while the Vorn had raw strength, Reed had something the alien didn't understand: endurance. On Earth, humans had evolved to persistence hunt, to withstand pain, to keep going when other species would stop. The battle began, and for the first time, the watching Loomers saw what truly made humans Deathworlders, not just their strength or technology, but their absolute refusal to quit. The victory celebration in the Loomer capital was subdued. Though the Vorn forces had retreated from the planet, they had not surrendered. Commander Drax had been defeated in single combat, not by Reed's strength, but by his endurance. After hours of fighting, the Vorn commander had simply collapsed from exhaustion, while Reed remained standing. "They'll be back," Reed told his officers as they gathered in what was now their forward base. "And next time, they'll be prepared for our tactics." Wilson entered the room, carrying a small device. "Admiral, I finished analyzing the data from the Vorn command center. I found something important." She placed the device on the table, and a holographic map appeared above it. "This is the Vorn home system," she explained. "Their central command, their shipyards, their government, everything." Morgan leaned forward, studying the map. "How far?" "About 70 light-years from here," Wilson replied. 3 jump points away." Davis whistled softly. "That's deep in unknown space. No one's mapped those routes." Reed's eyes never left the map. "The Vorn have. And now, so have we." Ambassador Gray entered the room, his luminescent skin glowing a concerned blue. "Admiral Reed, my government wishes to express our deepest gratitude for your help. The evacuation of our endangered cities is proceeding well." Reed nodded but didn't smile. "Ambassador, the Vorn will return with a larger force. They know our capabilities now." "We understand," Gray said. "We are preparing our defenses based on your recommendations. Many young Loomers have volunteered to train with your soldiers." "It won't be enough," Reed said quietly. "Not against their full fleet." The room fell silent as everyone understood what Reed was suggesting. "You want to strike at their homeworld," Morgan said finally. "Take the fight to them." Reed nodded. "If we wait, they'll gather their forces and crush both Loomer and Earth. They know what we are now, a potential threat to their dominance." Gray's skin pulsed with anxiety. Such an action would be unprecedented. The Loomers have never launched an offensive war. "You're not," Reed said. "We are. And we're not asking you to fight, just to guide us through the jump points." 3 days later, the 7th Fleet departed Loomar space, leaving 2 ships behind to help defend the planet. Ambassador Gray had assigned their best navigator, a Loomar named Stream, to guide the human fleet. "The journey will be dangerous," Stream warned as they approached the first jump point. "The 3rd jump passes near a dying star. Few ships ever attempt it." Reed looked at Davis. "Can we make it?" The human navigator studied the Loomer's data and nodded confidently. "Yes, sir. It'll be tight, but I can plot us a safe course." The first 2 jumps were uneventful, but as they approached the 3rd, Stream became visibly nervous. "The radiation from the dying star interferes with jump point stabilization," the Loomar explained. "The window for safe passage is very small." Davis worked closely with Stream, combining Loomar knowledge with human precision. When they emerged from the 3rd jump, the entire bridge crew exhaled in relief. "We've made it," Stream said, sounding surprised. "No Loomer fleet has ever successfully navigated this route." Before them stretched the Vorn home system, a harsh-looking yellow star orbited by 9 planets, the third of which glowed with city lights visible even from this distance. "That's their homeworld," Wilson said, studying the sensor readings. "Gravity 1.3 times Earth normal. Atmosphere denser than ours, higher oxygen content. Frequent electrical storms across the surface." Reed nodded, understanding. "A harsh world, but not in the same ways Earth is harsh. They evolved for strength in high gravity, but not for endurance or adaptability." As they watched, their sensors detected movement. Space around the Vorn homeworld was coming alive with ships, dozens, then hundreds of vessels moving to defensive positions. "They've detected us," Morgan reported. "They're scrambling everything they have." Reed's expression remained calm. "Good. That means their central command is coordinating the response. Wilson, is your special project ready?" The engineer nodded grimly. "Yes, Admiral. Based on the data we captured, I've created a virus that should disrupt their network communications. Their ships all receive orders from Central Command. They're not used to fighting independently." Reed studied the massive Vorn fleet forming up to intercept them. The human ships were outnumbered 10-1. "They've never faced an enemy who would dare attack their homeworld," Reed said. "They've never needed to defend it." Davis looked at the tactical display, his face pale but determined. "There's a dense asteroid field between us and the planet. The Vorn ships are too large to maneuver effectively there." Reed smiled for the first time since they'd left Lumar. "Navigator Davis, take us into the asteroids. Captain Morgan, prepare all weapons. Engineer Wilson, stand by with your virus." Stream stared at Reed in disbelief. "You're not retreating, even though they outnumber you." "Retreating?" Reed asked, genuinely puzzled. "Why would we retreat? We're just getting started." The asteroid field surrounding the Vorn homeworld became a chaotic battlefield. Human ships darted between the massive rocks with precision that seemed impossible, while the larger Vorn vessels struggled to follow. "They're splitting their forces," Morgan reported from his tactical station, "trying to surround the asteroid field." Reed nodded. "They still think like a dominant species. They expect us to behave according to their rules of warfare." Wilson monitored her screens as the Defender weaved through the asteroids. "Virus payload ready, Admiral. I need to get within transmission range of their central command station." A massive explosion lit up space as a Vorn cruiser collided with an asteroid while pursuing one of the smaller human ships. "Their captains are getting frustrated," Davis observed. "They're taking unnecessary risks." Reed pointed to a gap in the Vorn formation. "There. Navigator Davis, plot a course that will take us through that opening and close to their command station." "It'll be tight," Davis warned, but his fingers were already working the controls. The Defender accelerated suddenly, breaking free from the asteroid field and shooting toward the Vorn homeworld. 3 enemy ships moved to intercept, but Morgan's tactical genius showed as he timed their weapon bursts perfectly, disabling the lead ship and causing the others to veer off course. "We're in range," Wilson announced. "Deploying the virus now." A pulse of data streamed from the Defender toward the massive orbital station above the Vorn homeworld. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the lights on Vorn ships began to flicker. "It's working," Wilson exclaimed. "Their command network is collapsing." Across the battlefield, Vorn ships either drifted powerless or moved in confused patterns, no longer coordinated by their central command. "Open a channel to the Vorn homeworld," Reed ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a chamber filled with Vorn officials. At the center stood an imposing figure with elaborate markings on its gray skin. "I am High Commander Gorn of the Vorn Empire," the alien announced. "You have violated our sacred space. Your destruction is inevitable." Reed stood tall. "This is Admiral Reed of Earth. Your forces attacked the Lumar Confederation without provocation. You attempted to enslave a peaceful species. We responded as any civilized society would, by protecting the innocent." The Vorn commander's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "The Lumars are weak. The weak do not deserve to hold valuable resources or territory. Strength isn't just about power, Reed replied. Look around you, High Commander. Your ships outnumber ours 10 to 1, yet we've neutralized your fleet. We could destroy your command center right now, but that's not why we came. Gorn seemed genuinely confused. If not to destroy us, then why? To talk. Reed said simply. To establish peace. The galaxy is large enough for all species to exist without conflict. There was a long silence before the Vorn commander spoke again. You could have sent a message. Reed smiled slightly. Would you have listened? 3 days later, Reed sat across from High Commander Gorn in a neutral meeting area established on one of the Vorn moons. Ambassador Gray and several other Lumar representatives were also present. Our species evolved to conquer, Gorn explained. For millennia, we believed this was the natural order. The strong survive, the weak perish. Earth's history contains similar beliefs, Reed acknowledged. We learned, through much suffering, that cooperation often achieves more than conflict. The peace accord they established that day would change galactic politics forever. The Vorn agreed to withdraw from Lumar territory and release all prisoners. In exchange, the Lumars would share their jump point technology with both humans and Vorn, opening new regions of space for exploration rather than conquest. You could have destroyed us, Gorn said to Reed as the meeting concluded. Why didn't you? Because that's not who we are, Reed replied. Humans come from a harsh world. Yes, we evolved to survive against incredible odds. But we also evolved compassion, cooperation, and hope. Those traits define us as much as our strength. 1 month later, the 7th Fleet returned to Earth as heroes. Crowds cheered as Reed and his officers received medals for their service. But in his speech, Reed focused not on the victory but on the future. Today, Earth stands as a known power in the galaxy, he told the assembled crowd. But our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our ships. It's our ability to extend a hand in friendship even after raising a fist in defense. In the years that followed, Earth became a center for galactic diplomacy. Species from dozens of worlds sought human advice and protection. The term Deathworlders remained, but its meaning changed. It no longer simply described humans' physical capabilities, but also their moral courage and commitment to justice. As for Reed, he often visited both the Lumar homeworld and, surprisingly, Vorn Prime. He understood something fundamental about humanity's role in the stars, that being born on a harsh world had given humans not just the strength to fight, but the wisdom to know when not to. And somewhere in deep space, a new distress call was racing toward Earth, another opportunity for the Deathworlders to show the galaxy what humanity truly stood for.